Hello, my dear audience. This is Sangat, and I'm here again with another installment of Lunations, and this one is a big one. Um, this one is a solar eclipse in Capricorn. So it happens December 25th, depending on where you live in the world. December 25th and December 26th. It's a midnight going from the 25th to the 26th. And it's at 4 degrees 7 minutes of Capricorn. And it has very interesting aspects with other planets. So, first of all, I would like to talk about solar eclipses, and lunar eclipses in general. Eclipses happen when when the moon is close to the nodal axis, meaning the north or the south node of the moon. This is a geometrical point calculated by the intersection of the Earth ecliptic or Earth rotation around the sun and the moon rotation around the Earth. The intersection of the two ecliptics are the north and the south node of the moon. So a south node eclipse has an energy of, it's a more spiritual energy, and it's also an energy of letting go, felt more at the soul level, and it usually brings issues or events or people from the past in order to either renew, revisit, resolve, and also especially to learn a lesson, because the south and the north node of the moon are called fated points, meaning that they have this charge of karmic effect, or in the south node there would be the karmic accumulation of past of the person, right? So let me know if you are listening to me well. I don't see in the chat, but you can chat and ask questions if you like, or you can ask questions after when you tune in again or watch it later. So let us talk about this solar eclipse in Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign of the social conventions, the social and institutional organizations that are in charge of protecting society, right? It includes everything that is it's meant to protect the safety of people, and also the conventions in order that we need as a society in order to live in peace, right? And the axis Cancer Capricorn has to do with the parental structure of our lives, right? Capricorn represents the father figures. Cancer represents the mother figure, while Cancer is variable and fluctuates because it's ruled by the moon, which changes phases, and fluctuates. Capricorn is more rigid of a sign, more rocky, stony, and barren, and cold and rigid. It is also a cardinal sign, which means that changes. It's the time of the year where the season changes. So the changes may be radical, right? So this eclipse in Capricorn then has this flavor of karma in a good way, because it's with the South Node, indicating the past life and things of the past. And also it is in, I would say, sign conjunction is not exact conjunction, but Saturn is present in its own home of Capricorn, which means that it has this flavor of karma, right? And it's exacerbated by the actions and the work of Pluto. So I invite you to read more about this, more information in my blog, satsangatastrology.blogspot.com. I've written extensively about that, but I also am writing about the chart of the Great Conjunction in January, and I explain a lot about what's going on in the sign of Capricorn. So I think that this is a very serious eclipse, very powerful. It's an annular eclipse, meaning that because of the distance that we are from Earth, from the sun, the moon shadow doesn't cover all the light of the sun, so there is a ring around that shows the sun is behind, right? So that's why it's annular. So there are also in my blog report of this eclipse, you will find links to the astronomical information about it, and that site, I think, is called Date and Time. They have even live cameras that will show you the progress, and this eclipse will last about 3 hours complete. So eclipses this long tend to, according to ancient traditions in astrology, tend to have a longer effect. So meaning that the impact will last for a long, long time. Some astrologers may say 3 years. And for example, one long eclipse, it was a solar eclipse in August 2017, if you remember. There was much excitement about watching that eclipse, because the transit was over the United States, so many people wanted to go and watch it. So that one lasted 3 hours as well. And if you remember, the impact has been really, really important for a long time. So with weather, catastrophes, and political upheavals, and many other consequences. So it doesn't really matter if the events arise the same exact date, because these, as I said, these eclipses have the power to affect our lives, human life, and in general the world, for a long time, a minimum 6 months until the next full moon or lunar eclipse in Capricorn, which will happen in the summer. So during this time, the consciousness or the spiritual consciousness represented by the sun is interrupted or covered by the psychic and unconscious psychological mind or consciousness, and represented by the moon. So meaning that many things that are hidden in the unconscious may appear back in the surface for us to ponder, to consider, and maybe to resolve, right? Usually things come up when people are ready for it to process it. Anyways, in order to see the personal effects, the astrologer has to really look at the whole chart and how it will affect you personally. I'm going to give you some hints during this report, but in general, this solar eclipse on the south node of the moon has this flavor of energy leak, letting go of things that are not working anymore, that are decayed, or we need to separate from. It has this kind of purging effect. So it doesn't mean that things are going to be completely erased from our lives. Like, for example, suppose that it's on your fifth house, which is the house of children. It doesn't mean that you are going to completely lose your children. It means that something in your relationship with your children is outmoded and it needs to be transformed or changed. So it comes up at the table for you to look at and evaluate and resolve it, or let it go. So all eclipses happen because of the proximity of the lunation with the nodal axis. So understand that by karma or fate, those events, circumstances, and effect, they are completely out of our human control. It means that are originated by the accumulated unconsciousness of the entire history, sometimes, and not only of the humanity, but the Earth's existence. And in your personal life, it's usually some, as I said, psychological, unconscious luggage that we bring, and we don't know really that we are acting up those unconscious things. So that's the kind of that's how we should understand karma or fate, right? So at this time, we are ready to turn the page on the last 30 years of our lives, at least. But at least, let's say, 9 years from the time when the nodal axis was reversed, meaning that the north node was in 2009, was in Capricorn, and the south node in Cancer. So now we have the opposite. So things today may bring up things from that time also. So let us consider the demolition or deconstruction that Pluto is doing in Capricorn, and the rebuilding of Saturn that has already started since Saturn entered his own home of Capricorn. So we are now starting to walk a new path, and this eclipse is just another step in that journey that you might have already feeling since the start of the cycle, Saturn Pluto in Capricorn, that was last year. So because Saturn has almost reached the 23 degrees and then went back retrograde, and then is going again forward to meet Pluto on January 12th. So by the time Pluto leaves the sign of Capricorn in 2025, he would have completely decomposed and recycled all the structures of public structures, right? Like political structures, governmental institutions, and also societal structures and organization. And we can see the upheaval already. Everywhere you look in the world, there is chaos and upheaval and disorganization and things that don't make any sense. So this is the soup where a new creation can occur. So there is this profound transmutation at the mundane level. Also, another consideration is that Pluto and Saturn are both with their respective planetary south nodes, which you can imagine those are karmic points. As I said, they are the accumulation of karma from those planets, right? So imagine a huge sewage pipe draining all the Capricornian social, political, economic, structural junk. So humanity is purging itself of all toxic behaviors and anything related to Capricornian structures, right? So for your personal life, is this eclipse happening in your fourth house, for example, which is the house of emotional security, home and family, and even your house, your physical house? So those areas of your life will be affected in a way that you may have to leave behind something related to those themes in order to rebuild a better family life or emotional life. Is that the eclipse in your ninth house? Then what is transmuting is your beliefs, your belief system, your higher understanding, and also of the scheme of life, and your goals for the future, your vision of the future. So it depends in the house where the eclipse is occurring. So we are also ending a 500-year-old cycle of Saturn, Pluto in Capricorn. That was last time these the eclipse at 4 degrees now is happening at the same degree where Saturn and Pluto conjuncted in 1518. That was the year of the Reformation, the Catholic Church, the birth of the Protestantism by Martin Luther King. So it was a schism and the schism in the church, dividing, right, the old from the new. So today we have this conjunction Pluto-Saturn in Capricorn, also dividing what the generation that wants to keep the old system and the things that the establishment as the status quo, how it's always been, right? The patriarchal system of domination and control, and the other piece is the new I would say generation that is separating from that old, for those old and obsolete traditions. If you remember, in mythology, Saturn, right, was the enemy of his own father, Uranus. He fought with him and ended up castrating Uranus. So the symbolism of this is that there is a rupture in between generations, right? And in order for us to mature, we need to cut links from the past generations and traditions that are no longer useful for us. So this is what is happening now. Jupiter was also Jupiter was the son of Saturn, and if you remember in mythology, also he also fought Saturn and defeated him because Saturn had eaten all his brothers and sisters, and so Jupiter with the Titans fought against Saturn and had him vomit the children. So as you see, there is a psychological symbolism in this mythological tradition that generations, in order to develop and grow, they need to separate from their parents. They need to create a world of their own. As children, for example, they separate from their parents in order to build their own homes, their own families, have their own children, right? That's the physical part of it. But spiritually and psychologically, they also need to cut cords with their parents in order to grow and mature. So this is one of the processes that is taking place as a humanity level, right? So you will see people who are gripping to the traditions, that the way the things were and are not anymore. So this chart, I put the thumbnail of the chart on the video, so you can take a look at the all the planets except for Neptune are coming back to be ruled by Saturn. Because let's have one example. Mars, for example, Mars is in Scorpio, but the ruler of Scorpio is Pluto, and Pluto is in Capricorn, meaning that Pluto is ruled by Saturn. And the same thing, if you take Mercury, for example, is in Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. So, and if you take any of the other planets, you go back and you end up in Saturn. So the chart is mainly ruled by Saturn. So the main energy of this is Saturn, which is the lord of karma, the lord of times and changing times, right? And the lord of societal structures, political conventions that ensure people's security, right? So let's go to the solar eclipse. So the solar eclipse is a starting point or a seed planted. So as I said, you may not see the results of this eclipse immediately on that day, but it's a seed that is planted as when you put the seed inside the soil, right, is in darkness, and you don't see the plant until it comes out of the earth and the soil, and you can see the bud, right? So you may have to wait for months, maybe, and even maybe until the summer when the lunar eclipse happens here in Capricorn in order to see the results. So generally speaking, people will be deprived of something from the past that is no longer viable. In this case, the planets, including the Sun, the Moon, Jupiter, and Capricorn, will be the actors that open the karmic portal and dislodge that energy, that waste, right? So we could talk about belief systems, ideologies, philosophies that are purged of outdated principles. Wisdom, optimism, and the higher mind, and our understanding of the universe cosmology are also refined. All those are ruled by Jupiter, which is conjunct the solar eclipse. So inappropriate expansion and acquisition of material fortune are also purified as well. So cultural awareness of differences, long distance travel, and foreign exchanges are reduced and clarified. We can expect that long distance travel will somewhat be restrained, constrained, or limited in some way, regulated maybe more. We see the issue with Boeing. Boeing had to change the production of that specific plane because of new demands, right? Because it was not working well. So this will have an incidence on the travel for that company. For the companies that buy Boeing from Boeing, right? So the administration of higher justice may be thwarted as well, with the natural law and the benevolence losing their brightness. Regarding Jupiter in Capricorn, I refer you to my blog. I have a specific report on that. Let's see the aspects that the solar eclipse make. It makes a trine with Uranus and Taurus. It's 2 degrees apart, so it's very close. And this is a harmonious aspect and influence. It promotes change of our material values. Even though it's a harmonious aspect, the essence of Uranus is upheaval and radical changes. So the changes may not feel very harmonious, but they will happen in a soft and flowing manner. So it also will radically show where our concept and use of the earth resources is faulty. Uranus, the lord of the sky, the abstract scientific mind, and shows us where and when we need to take responsibility for the present economic system that is not only inexorably depleting our planet, but at the same time closing the doors of our survival. So, and if you take a look, Venus, the ruler of Taurus, is in Aquarius, which is the home of Uranus. So this is very interesting, called mutual reception of planets, and it makes this relationship very powerful. So the sign of Aquarius is scientific, and it's futuristic, innovative in technology, and we see that all those are used in order to help us better use the resources of the earth, except that we haven't done it in a sustainable way. So Taurus represents our physical survival, the food we eat, the substance that generates the life energy. So new technologies and scientific research will develop new ways of mass food production, hopefully sustainable this time, right? Or at least we need to aim at that, and very soon. So the eclipse visible area, eclipses are seen mainly in one area of the Earth. As I said, I refer you to my blog. There is a link to the Date and Time website, where they have the map where the eclipse will be passing, but the main area that will be eclipsed will be the Indian Ocean, and the countries around it, mainly from South Arabia to Japan, passing by Yemen, India, China, Afghanistan, Burma, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, the Philippines, North Australia, and both Koreas. So I don't discard the possibility of a natural weather disaster or event at a big scale there. If you remember the solar eclipse in 2017 passing over the United States brought catastrophic floods and also storms. So we don't know, but eclipses bring things like that. So remember that the solar eclipse is a seed. So events may not occur on the exact date, but within the following 6 months. And the 2 weeks windows before and after are critical. So the solar eclipse also squared Chiron in Aries. The event unleashed by this eclipse may exacerbate the need of migration, Jupiter, for survival reasons, Chiron in Aries. So displaced peoples would suffer for lack of enough sustenance, shelter, and safety. So cultural contacts between very disparate peoples may create more political and economic tensions that can aggravate the xenophobic sentiments already existent. So Chiron and Aries, I also wrote a series on Chiron and Aries and the activations every month this year. So you can also read that in my blog. Chiron in Aries has to do with at a personal level, we may have an identity crisis, realizing that our culture, ethnicity, gender orientation, religion, political affiliation, or any other thing or ideas that we identify with can highly factor in our ability to being accepted, supported, and integrated into society. Meaning, suppose that well, we already see this. So some religions are not accepted by the general population. Some colors of skin are persecuted because just of the color, or so we say. In general, the fact that humans concentrate on those trivial differences is not the color, is not the religion, is not their cultural background. It is economical, right? Because people think from the scarcity and the lack mentality, and so people have the tendency to see other groups as threats to their survival. So, and this is a very primal psychology that we can and we need to overcome. So being different can become a survival factor these days, especially because of those massive migrations. Many people will react empathetically, though. I've seen videos of people preparing food for the refugees and being kind and welcoming, because when we see the suffering of other people, we realize our own fragility, right? And that's what we project on them, so that we fear that vulnerability that we see in them. So that's why we fear the people suffering, because we feel that we may suffer, right? It's like when your friend's father died, right? And then you start thinking about death, and you think, oh, my father or my mother is this or that old, and you think, oh, they may also die. So is this gut reaction that we have. But if the human race is to be preserved, it is critical to become aware of its vulnerable present position and wake up to the fact that we need to change our ways to favor human thriving instead of corruption, enmity, pollution, and destruction, right? So this is just the start of this eclipse season. Observe and pay attention to what happens around you in your personal life, in your country. Signs of the eclipses, meaning, will be all over the place. In my opinion, the prevalent chaos, Pluto's work, is awakening in people the need to restore order, security, and peace, right? All planets in Capricorn, and they're longing for a place to relax, to be safe, a place that we can call home. Cancer North Node, right? It is time for people to take into their own hands the responsibility to build, Capricorn, their own safe haven, Cancer, however they need it to be. So this is a time for humanity to mature, to take responsibility for our own lives, and especially not to expect the forces outside or institutions outside, even the government, would take care of us, because they won't, and we see them. And that's the problem that we have now, that people are seeing that their institutions and their governments are not caring about people. So what do we need to do is to look for our own survival and take the responsibility to build our own homes, our own safe havens. So with this, I will finish this, and I wish you the best. I hope that you are well affected by this solar eclipse, remember this is a seed you can plant, or intentions, or plan the future. Take advantage of today is the solstice, the day that the night is longer in the northern hemisphere, and the day is longer in the southern hemisphere. So, and this is kind of a start of a new year astronomically, where everything is about to restart. So I also have a post on the solar, no, on the winter solstice. So I hope you follow my blog, my channel, and you support me by liking the video, making comments, and subscribing to my channel. I greatly appreciate your watching this video, and I wish you the best. Thank you. Thank you so much.